Have you guys ever been to Madame Tussauds before? It's a wax museum. They actually have one here in the city. It's on 42nd and 8th, I think. Um, and it's a wax museum, and they have replicas of real people and real situations. So kind of full scale replicas of people like Tom Brady, Tom Cruise, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think Prince Harry having tea. And it's kind of cool to go and see them. It looks very real, but it's also kind of creepy. I think that at a gut level, we know that it's not real, and we leave feeling perhaps a bit disappointed that we didn't really get to sit down with Arnold Schwarzenegger. In the end, it's just a wax statue. Ancient Rome also had a problem with wax. Dishonest sculptors in Rome would cover their flaws and their cracks and holes in their works with tiny pieces of wax to deceive the viewer into thinking that it was a perfect statue, when in fact it wasn't. Therefore, a sculpture, quote, without wax meant that it was honest, right? That there was some perfection there, that it was pure marble through and through. In Latin, sine cere, two words, sine cere, means without wax. And this is where some scholars believe we get the word sincerity from, which is the topic of today's Virtue Talk. Be sure to take notes. If you take only one image away from this talk, I think that it should be that we need to work with real effort to burn away all of that wax that we may have in our life, right? That we may have on that facade that we show other people. We want to be pure marble, through and through. We want to be sincere. So let's start with the definition. Sincerely. We write this probably at the end of many of our letters that we write, or emails perhaps these days. But do we ever stop and think what it means? Do we strive to practice to be sincere as much as we write it and say it? The dictionary defines sincerity in this way: freedom from deceit, hypocrisy, or duplicity, honesty in intention, communication, earnestness. So, being a successful man in the grade, a man dedicated to his family, dedicated to his friends, dedicated to his profession, means practicing this virtue of sincerity in yourself and helping your friends to practice it as well. Let's take a look at a book called The Portrait of Dorian Gray. Not sure if you've read it, but it is about a man named Dorian who has a magical portrait of sorts. So this portrait is a picture of himself. However, no matter what kind of horrible life and sins that Dorian, the man, commits, he himself is not necessarily affected by it. However, his portrait decays. Okay, so all these kind of sins and terrible things that he's doing is decaying his portrait, making it very ugly. And in the end, right, he kind of comes to reckon with this. But I think that it gives us a very good sense of what being insincere does to us. So we might not be able to see it clearly on the outside of someone. Again, there might be some pieces of wax that fill the holes, but on the inside, in reality, it really does decay us, right? It really does cause us pain and suffering in the long run. However, this talk is about the positive virtue of sincerity, and it really is a great virtue. We want all of our friends to be sincere with us. Bosses want their employees to be sincere. Our parents want us to be sincere with them. Two married people would want their spouses to be sincere. Voters want their politicians to be sincere. So you see the point. Sincerity is something that we demand in other people. We love it when it's there, and therefore we should strive to have it in ourselves as well. There are two main areas then that we can look at, okay? One is sincerity within ourselves, and the second is sincerity in others. So let's examine these. First, let's look at sincerity in ourselves. Psychologists talk a lot about this kind of state of denial. And sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, you're in denial about something. The Patriots didn't win another Super Bowl, you're in denial. Whenever someone suffers a setback or a loss, it is actually, or it can be difficult to accept that that thing actually occurred. I didn't really just get fired from my job, or I don't really have bad grades in school, or I'm not really that bad at basketball, or this isn't really the last grade session of the year. I'm sorry, it's true. I know it hurts me too, but it is. Anyway, the first step to overcoming any problem is to be sincere with ourselves, to be honest, and to talk about the problem openly. Denial is the enemy, gentlemen, and it must be killed swiftly, okay? Believe it or not, the college application process is actually a very good opportunity to be sincere with oneself about one's talents, one's abilities, and one's struggles, too. If you've gotten C's in math class all throughout high school, then I hate to break it to you, but you're probably not going to go study theoretical physics at MIT. It just probably isn't in the stars for you. And it's important that you're able to accept that fact early on. Hopefully, the grade has helped you to be sincere with yourself, giving you opportunities to think about yourself in an objective way, and being able to shed some light on what you're good at and maybe some things that you struggle with. To accomplish anything in life, we need to be very sincere with ourselves about where exactly we stand. This is very critical if we're going to ever make any true progress in life. To finish this section on sincerity about oneself, I wanted to give you a quote, a gem really, from a classic novel, well worth the read, Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. And here's the quote. Above all, don't lie to yourself. The man who lies to himself and listens to his own lie comes to a point where he cannot distinguish the truth within him or around him, and so loses all respect for himself and for others. And having no respect, he ceases to love. That is to say, you must be sincere with yourself if you are to be happy in life. Do not let a waxy film cover your life, that waxy film of self-deceit. Examine your own life rigorously and really try to see any half-truths or lies that you may be telling yourself. And when you do find them, you need to work ruthlessly to burn them away, right? And one of the ways that we can do this, be sincere with ourselves, is to ask other people, and to be humble. Okay, we'll go into that in a bit, but that kind of leads us into the next session, which is sincerity with other people, right? Which is actually an essential part of true friendship. So true friendship is one of the great joys of life, and it cannot exist without sincerity. I think how many of us think we've all experienced this? How many of us have asked a friend for honest feedback about something, anything, grades, the way that they handled a particular situation, about skills in a particular sport, whatever it is? It's good to know that your friend, a true friend, will always give you an objective analysis. He's your friend and he wants what's best for you, and he will tell you the truth even if it hurts. This is a very important point. Friends that do not tell you the truth, that would rather flatter you, let's say, than tell you what you aren't or are good at, they do you no good, right? And they're actually very harmful. You want friends who will be brutally honest with you, always in a loving way, of course, but you need friends who are going to tell you as it is, or else you're never going to be able to grow, right, in this life. In order to foster this attitude of mutual trust with friends, we need to be resolute in keeping confidences, right, and avoiding gossip. So essentially keeping the secrets of our friends. We really need to be strong in this area, because this is how we can kill any sort of confidence or sincerity that our friend might have with us. If a friend tells you something in confidence, keep it that way. If he's told you something dangerous to himself or others, then by all means, please encourage him to tell somebody. However, most of the time, the confidential information that you get from a friend is, think of it as money given to you in a trust, and you have to be like Fort Knox. I guess Fort Knox, back when we had the gold standard, Fort Knox was where all the gold in the U.S. was kept, and it was the most secure place in the world, supposedly. So we have to be like that. You are the guardian of that money, and you are not allowed to spend it, okay? It is rare today to meet a man with whom you can really share your very private thoughts and concerns and worries and know that that information is never going to leave that room. Nobody else is going to hear that stuff. And we should all strive to be that man that can keep those secrets and keep those confidences. Now let's talk about gossip. I think gossip is something that we often think of as only something that teenage girls do. But I think teenage men and all people in general can also gossip. Gossip does not have to be false to be gossip, okay? Gossip can be true, yet it's still none of your business. I think that's a very important point. And if you are not sure if something can be shared or not, then you need to ask yourself 3 questions. The first is it true? The second is it kind? And the third and most important is it necessary? I think that a lot of times we may want to share something just because we have information that nobody else has, and that kind of makes us feel good when we share it, right? We can have some sort of position of prestige, so to speak, because everyone is now kind of hanging on your every word. Well, that's pride, and we need to get rid of that. Do not share it if it's not true, if it's not kind, and if it's not necessary. And even if your friends or your family or whoever it is really press you to reveal something, simply consider, right, that if you break that promise, if you break that confidence and that trust, you can never really expect your friend to tell you anything ever again, anything worth knowing. And that's very unfortunate, and something that we want to avoid at all costs, because that kills friendships, and your friend is no longer going to be sincere with you. And so, yeah, it's just, you want to be the guy that your friends can count on, okay? Good. So how can we improve in sincerity? You may have heard, kind of this common dilemma, let's say that you have some sort of, embarrassing illness, or you have some really big wart, right, that's like growing on your shoulder, and it's kind of really weird, and you're very self-conscious about it, and you don't want anyone to see it, but you know that the only way that it's going to get healed is if you go to the doctor, right, and you show them, and they can help you. Sincerity is very similar. So kind of in any area of life, if we want to grow, if we want to heal, so to speak, we need to get help from a doctor. In this case, it could be our parents. It could be a teacher. It could be a friend. It could be your mentor in the grade. Someone who you have confidence in and you know is going to help you. We need to kind of get over this fear of being known, okay? Being known in whatever it is that we're trying to overcome, whatever kind of insecurity, whatever kind of fault or anything that we have to be able to get it out there and to go seek help, so to speak, in the right way. And I have a brief story to kind of illustrate this point. So my aunt is a dietitian, so someone who helps people with diets. And apparently one time she had a patient who desperately wanted to lose weight. This guy's name was let's just call him Bob, okay? So Bob, he was gaining weight fast. He couldn't really control it. So my aunt, the dietitian, let's just call her the doctor for short, the doctor, she prescribed a rigorous routine of exercise and a very strict diet and eating well. So 2 months later, when Bob checked in, turns out he had actually gained more weight being on this regimen that my aunt had given him. And the doctor, my aunt, she asked him if he had been faithful to the diet and to the exercise. And Bob said that he had. He had been faithful. He had done everything that she told him to do. The doctor then asked Bob to rack his brain for any kind of lapse that he may have had. And he said that he didn't have any. The doctor said, okay, well, come back in a month and we'll see if anything changes. So a month later, Bob comes back and he had gained weight again. And so this time the doctor's racking her brain and she can't think, what is this guy doing? Maybe there's got to be something he's not telling me. So she demanded that Bob tell her if he was eating anything else or doing anything else that might have caused him to gain weight. After a few minutes of thinking, Bob mentioned, kind of offhandedly, well, I always do have a jar of mayonnaise before bed. But that couldn't be it, could it? So I think that the point of this story is that no one can help us deal, right, with a real problem that we may be having if they don't have all the information. So if the dietitian doesn't have the information that Bob is eating a jar of mayonnaise every night before bed, then that's going to affect what treatment she gives him and how she treats him. And this is true for all aspects of our life. So we have to be truly sincere with those who can help us. And actually doing this will give us a tremendous sense of peace. I can assure you, it'll give us a tremendous sense of peace and the ability to make progress and to move forward and to grow, right? And that's what we're always trying to do here at The Grade. We're always trying to move forward and to grow. Good. So, to conclude, Mark Twain once famously said, when in doubt, tell the truth. Okay, it's very simple. And I think that you'll agree that it's very good advice. Whether it's with our friends, our parents, our future bosses, in this case, our teachers, sincerity is a must-have for any real man, for any true man, for any real true person for that matter. Sincerity is of crucial importance when setting goals, when building friendships, when overcoming obstacles in our lives. I encourage you to work very hard to burn away that wax that we might have in that statue of our persona, right, that we give to other people. To throw away those jars of mayonnaise, metaphorically, that may be in our lives, and to be sincere with our parents and our friends. The fact is that sincerity is absolutely foundational. If you aren't sincere, your growth as a person is entirely stunted. If you are sincere, well, let's just say that you will be amazed at how quickly and how much you can grow as a man. That's it. Thank you.